Hello, this is Winnie Dow, and today I want to share with you all the update from 23andme. I know it's been a while since they released that update, but I had not shared it with any of you yet. Some of my percentages went up, some went down, and there is a surprise-ish that I got here, just like I did in the first with the first results, and I hope that you enjoy these. First of all, I am from Puerto Rico, so these results will probably be shared with people from Puerto Rico or will be similar to people from Puerto Rico. So for these results, the European percentage went up to 72.8%. I think it was about 63% or 68%. I don't remember exactly, but it went up to 72.8%. And from there, 68.5% is from Southern Europe, and the regions would be 63.2% Andalucía. I have like three main regions. One is Andalucía, the other one is the Canary Islands, and I believe the other one is Galicia. Those are the three main ones. 0.6% is Italian. Broadly Southern European is 4.7%. Northwestern European is 2.1%. French and German 2.1%. Ashkenazi Jewish 1.1%, and broadly European 1.1%. That Ashkenazi part I had commented in my first video that it had surprised me, because since my ethnicity is mostly Spanish from Spain, I assumed that it would be Sephardic or Sephardim, but it came out Ashkenazi. I do have a little bit of French and German, which is 2.1%, so I assume it probably is related to that. I don't know, although I think, no, I don't know. I don't really know. I was really expecting Sephardic, and it still came out Ashkenazi again, so that kind of surprised me a little bit. So my second largest ethnicity is East Asian and Indigenous American, and that went down though. The first time it was near 15%. Now it went down to 13.3%, and from there 13.1% is Indigenous American, and 0.2% is broadly East Asia and Indigenous American. I had uploaded my DNA data to Gedmatch, and they have different calculators, and one of these calculators showed that my indigenous was broken down into Inuit, Pima, and Caritiama. Caritiama are from the Amazonas. Pima, I believe, is from the part that goes from Mexico to United States. Sorry. The part that where Mexico is divided into Mexico and United States, I believe the Pima are located there. I know they are from the desert. I know that they believed in one God, is one of these tribes that believed in one God only. And the Inuit, I don't know how it happened. The only assumption I can make is that my maternal haplogroup is U5, which is Sami. And I do have Beringian and Siberian ethnicities that show up on Gedmatch. So I'm assuming the Inuit comes from that part of my heritage. I don't know for sure. It doesn't show Taino, but the thing with the Tainos is that The Taínos were a people, or are a people from the Amazons that were located in the Antilles. So there was a lot of trading going on through navigation. They have canoes and they navigated that area of the Yucatan and Florida. So Taínos were found also in Florida. Eventually, they mixed with the Creek and moved up north. So I'm assuming that that's why it's so mixed, and why it didn't show up as Taino. Um, and also, at some point, the Tainos had died. I don't want to say died out because we're still alive, but the numbers had been reduced, and the Spaniards brought more Native Americans from Mexico, from the Yucatan area into the island. So I'm assuming that the mix could have happened there. I'm not sure, but I am Taina, and I am Taina. And then my third largest heritage is from sub-Saharan Africa, and that's a 9.1%. That went up because I think it was like a 7 point something or an 8 point something in the first video, and now it went up to 9.1. From there, 5.5 is from West Africa. From West Africa, 2.9 is Nigerian, 1.4 is Senegambian and Guinea, and 1.2 is broadly West African, which makes sense because the Spaniards brought slaves from West Africa into the Caribbean. I'm also 2.6 Congolese and Southeastern African. And from there, 2.6 is Angolan and Congolese, so all of it. And I'm 0.2% Northern Eastern African, 2% is Sudanese, so all of it also. And I'm broadly Sub-Saharan, 0.8%. I wish I could have more information about these, and I could like go back into my records and see who was from, who of my ancestors was from there. But because of how the slave trade worked and how the American invasion affected the island and the record keeping and all of that, I can't really go back and see who of my ancestors was what. In this case, I have gone as far back as Spain, Corsica, Italy, and that's because the Catholic records have a lot of baptisms, marriages, and all of that documented. But with the slaves, the only thing that some people have found is like the records of who owned who, and the slaves usually had the last names of their masters, but I haven't found anything. It is the oral tradition in my family that my grandfather he was the owner of a farm, and apparently his parents, great grandparents, they had owned slaves, but there is no record, so I can't tell who was what or from where they came from or anything. And also my other ethnicity, which would be the last one, is Western Asian and North African. That would be a 3%. And from that, Arabian, Egyptian, and Levantine is 1.4%. Egyptian is 0.3%. Coptic Egyptian is 0.1%. And that would be like the ancient Egyptians. and broadly Arab, Egyptian, and Levantine 1%, North African 0.4%, and broadly Western Asia and North African 1.2%. I cannot also like trace this back in the records that I have gathered. However, I believe that because some of my ancestry comes from the Canary Islands, and the Canary Islands are located in between Spain and Morocco. I think that's how it came. How they moved and how it came to me. Um, about traditions and things that are Egyptian in my family, there are some things that after I have learned this information, now I look back and I'm like, that the Egyptians do that too. So maybe they got it from there. Which is funny though, is that when I started going to the Orthodox Church, this woman from Lebanon, she went to me and started talking to me and in her mother language, and she was very, very, very happy to see me, and I thought she was confusing me with someone, and I said to her, I speak English, and she changed to English, and she asked me, aren't you Lebanese? And I said no, and she said, but you look like my people. And so it's funny how these words, because out of all these percentages that I apparently have a phenotype that is from North Africa. My like I've been confused many times with people from maybe because I used these because of my alopecia, but I've been confused many times for being someone from North Africa or Middle Eastern. And I think even before I was using these things. And my children have been confused for Egyptians many times. There was a time, this one time we were in a pharmacy, and this Egyptian guy looked at my son and said, where in Egypt are you from? And I was like, no, he's not Egyptian. And he's like, what? Like, he couldn't believe it. He probably assumed that I was denying the race or something, but I didn't know then that I did have a little tiny bit of Egyptian blood. And of course, my son has it too. And also, I got 1.8% unassigned, which is great because the first time that I got the results, I got 6.6% unassigned. And I can't remember that name because that percentage because it was really frustrating. That time I remember I got a lot of broadly this, broadly that, and to me it was frustrating that I had paid so much for a DNA test that came back like that because it wasn't telling me much. It gave me like these whole regions, and now finally I do have something that is more detailed, and it kind of matches with what Gedmatch had already analyzed using different calculators, so I'm happy. Now, I do also have recent ancestry in the Americas. Of course, I am Puerto Rican, in the Caribbean area, and one of these regions is Ponce, Puerto Rico. I am from Yauco. Ponce is actually the region to where Yauco is attached to, and also Havana, Cuba. That I had actually discovered through records before it was confirmed here through DNA, because I have some records of different aunts that were going back and forth between Cuba and Puerto Rico, actually to Havana, Cuba. I don't know why, but these are ship records, and it shows them that this is true. Now, my maternal haplogroup is U5B1B1. Because my father got his DNA tested also, I now know that my maternal side, in my paternal side, the maternal line is C1, which it's found in Europe, and my grandmother looked totally European, but also is one of the lines that is found within the Native American groups here in the Americas. So there's some evidence that points to that probably being the line that came through the Bering Strait. So I'm very curious about that. I'm very happy also about that, because it kind of backs up that, I am Native American also, even if it's just a tiny bit. I do have the haplotype, although it is recessive now, and although my two haplogroups appear to be European, there is some Native American there. So my paternal haplotype, which I now have, is RZ278, and that is very cool, because through that haplotype I learned that I am a descendant of this Neil of the nine tribes or something like that. I don't know, he was an Irish conqueror. And the most important thing, because Puerto Rico is an island and it's so small, there's a lot of endogamy going on. My parents actually, through this DNA testing and all of that, we learned that they are actually 5th or 6th cousins. Actually, I had found some records in my family that showed that my father's mother's family was living in some land that actually belonged to my mother's father's side of the family. And it showed like a group of brothers married, like two brothers married two sisters. It showed that, but it didn't make sense to me, and I thought I did something wrong, and I stopped my search right there. But then when I went to Gedmatch and I checked my DNA to check if my parents were related, it came back as yes, they are actually related. And then I can go back and see where they got related, and it's actually like the fifth or the sixth generation back. But also my husband and I are related. When we met, we are different phenotype. He's Afro Latino, I'm white Latina, and he is from Guayama, Arroyo, I'm from Jauco. So when we met in college, we thought we have nothing to do with each other. We are good to go. So, but no, we are cousins. We are actually 4th or 5th cousins. And we are related. Now with my father's DNA test, we can confirm that we are related through the R haplotype, a paternal haplotype, which means my grandfather's father was related to my husband's grandfather. So this is kind of cool, because that side of my father's family was not well known, because my grandfather's mother was a single mother, I think. So there was some chaos going on, and we were not sure about how these related. But yeah, apparently my husband had the answer all along. And it's that we are related through that line. And it's also kind of sweet for me, because my husband my husband loves his grandfather, his paternal grandfather. He was a person that was very important in my husband's life, and I've always, even though I never met him, I always look at his picture and think that I kind of love him. I have learned to love him through my husband's eyes, and now I realize that it was a blood calling. That's my relative. It sounds weird. I know. We learned that we were related, my husband and I, like 20 years after we got married. So there's nothing we can do now. I actually like it because we are very far from our family on both sides, but we now have each other and we're like, okay, we're husband and wife, and when we don't get along well, we're cousins. So I know it sounds horrible, but that's how we take it. So this is all. If you have done your DNA test, please share your link down below. I would love to check it out. If you are from Puerto Rico and you have done it, please, please, please share that with me. I love going on YouTube and watching those videos and seeing how diverse our island is and how many ethnicities we got and how many surprises we get every time that we do a DNA test. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice day, and please come back to my channel whenever you can. Bye.